Hey, everybody. Welcome to Perpetual Motion, a program about current trends, communication, wellness, and relationships. I'm the host, Dr. Mo Anderson, and my goal is to help you stress less, produce more, and love the ones you're with. Today, my guest is Tony Anderson. He's one of the most versatile men you'll ever meet. He played sports at a high level from pre-K to college and then decided to focus solely on his degree. He graduated. Yes, he's a graduate from the University of Texas at Arlington with a bachelor's in business management, bam, which he uses in his position today at a major company. Yeah, thank you, Jesus, in the finance industry. But like most of us, he has a side passion. And for the past 10 years, he has been co-host of the popular, global podcast, Ooh, They Funny, with a crew of insightful and hilarious guys and one woman sometimes. And did I mention, he's my son, my oldest son. We can and we do talk about everything. So buckle up your seatbelts and come along for a fun ride. Welcome to the show, Mr. Anderson.
Appreciate you, Madre. Appreciate you. Glad to be on. I've gotten to watch on Facebook, and now finally get to be on now.
It's your time. I was practicing. I was practicing getting ready for the best. I wanted things to be right. I wanted to have it down before I brought on my oldest son, the king of November. So let's start with, we understand you're educated, you're an entrepreneur. People can clearly see you're good looking. What can I say? I'm a little biased, but they see it. They see it. Thank you. Good genes. But I want to start with a serious subject. You have 3 children, my grandchildren, 2 boys and a girl. And I had 2 sons, just you and your brother. I know a little bit about raising boys. I don't know squat about raising girls. However, Chris Rock, who has daughters, says you have one job. Keep your daughter off the pole.
That is the one job.
Tell me about your one job. Tell me about it.
So I got 2 boys first, and I truly believe the good Lord gave me 2 boys first, because if my daughter had been the number one, I wouldn't have had any more kids. Love my daughter, but she's an interesting child. But the thing, you know how they say, the whole adage about how like daddy's girls and your daughter will love you and all that stuff. She's not like that. She likes me on occasion. But the good thing about that, what I've learned, is because what I believe will guide her as she moves on to the future, going back to keeping her off the pole, is she doesn't seek men's attention. Like she is very independent. She is very, I can't remember the lady's name in The Devil Wears Prada, but she has that type of mindset where she has that Oprah mindset where she's going to take over the world and no dude is going to get in her way. So I'm not as worried about her as some of my friends' daughters when I see how they interact and how they're always craving boys' attention when we go to the playground and our kids are playing.
Even at her age? She's 5.
She doesn't crave attention, but boys give it to her. They naturally give it to her, but she's not trying to openly flirt with them. It's like, okay, you want my attention. I know I can boss you around. And so seeing that mindset, I'm not worried about her getting on the pole. Also, the brothers ain't gonna let her do that at all. So I had these 2 boys to scare off everybody else.
They are protected.
Household, you got me. You got 2 big boys. You got to come in with something. You got to bring something to the table. It's gonna be a very intimidating scene. Think of Bad Boys.
Well, just you opening the door and 6 feet something with the
Oh yeah.
beard and the big muscles, and then some brothers behind it. I can imagine. I didn't have all that. My dad, we recently lost pal. He did a pretty good job by himself intimidating jokers. So I can't even imagine coming to the house
Right.
to that. But has there been anything, this is kind of new for all of us. Yeah, you have your significant other, but in the experience of raising a daughter, even in just 5 years, has it helped with your understanding of women even? Are you just more puzzled than ever?
I don't think my understanding of women has changed. I don't know why, but I've generally had a good understanding of women. And I don't know if that's because I had a lot of female friends growing up. And I mean, you and I, we have these deep conversations. I think people will be surprised about the conversations me, you, and AC, which is my brother,
I
have.
know they would be.
I think people
very
will be shocked by our conversations. And so when you when you have these conversations, there's not a lot that surprises me. I'm more no, to answer your question, I can't say there's anything about her that surprised me at all.
All right.
I just really love the fact that she is strong-willed. Strong-willed. It has its pros and it has its cons.
She has I call it executive leadership potential. They used to say bossy little girls, but that the boys were leaders and future champions. And I love the way you're describing Ro, because she does. She was just here and she's almost bossing me around. I'm still the queen, but
now I will say
was
this
trying.
though, because I something just popped in my head thinking about something puzzling, is my wife is not like that. My daughter is a diva, and I don't know where she got it from. She's a girly girl who's athletic. She has a mix of tomboy and girly girl. I don't know where she gets it from, because my wife is not a girly girl. She's a tomboy.
And this is self-admitted, folks. He's not just saying that.
No. And
I've heard Leslie say that.
Yeah, she will say it. And so that part, I don't know where she got that from to just pick it up. I mean, she has throwback jeans, because even you have your days, but you can have tomboyish days. But it's like she took what you had and she took what Jay, your sister, has, and she amplified that by a lot. So I was like, where did you get this from?
And folks, I'll give y'all an example. We can be having dinner or something. She will go change outfits like Diana Ross, Mariah Carey, Cardi B style, just right in the middle of the holiday for no reason. Come back with a tiara and
princess dresses depending on what her mood is.
Yes, and I love that. But I love that she, like you said, doesn't have a subservient type of attitude. Right. And so, still, for just generically, then, not your daughter off the pole, how can anybody keep anybody off the pole when you're looking at what's on the gram and what's on television and the music? Oh my goodness, I think all the time I would hate to be raising a little girl right now.
Right. And I think with social media, I do think that makes it harder now. But I think two things I kind of watch growing up and observing with my female friends is the ones whose dads were very, very strict and didn't let them do anything. When they went to college, they went crazy. The ones who were very, very lenient, well, when they went to college, they went super crazy. So you got to have that balance. You got to have that balance of, I'm gonna let you do some things just so you get those experiences, so it's not a shock to you when you get to college. But you also got to reel it back some and say, hey, you can't go do everything. I think the other thing too is now you have to be more open with your kids. You got to be able to talk to your kids more.
Yes.
You and I had a conversation about how your generation with your parents, it was don't ask, don't tell. I feel like with us, it was don't ask me, but if you do ask me, I'll tell you. Be
prepared for the truth. Yeah.
With my kids and what a lot of my friends do, we just talk to our kids just now. We just it's based on their age. If they have a question, I don't sugarcoat the question. I will answer it age appropriately.
Right.
And if I see something or I see a situation that could turn into something, I will speak on it versus I hope they make the right choice. I know I've taught them good going to church. I know they're gonna get the right choice.
Right.
And some of the we love our church, but some of my worst friends were the ones who went to church Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
We're not going to even get into the PK phenomenon, but there is something to be said for that. Other ones, for me, it was the ones who my parents loved so much. I'm like, are you serious? That thought? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the worst ones. They know.
That's how you're trying to tell me I should be like you have.
Yeah. So you don't even know. And that's the flip side of it too, is because I know what it's like, I don't get caught up in the, oh, they're always going to be good. Oh, they're always going to tell me the truth. I look for tall tale signs, and I don't call my kids out when they're lying to me sometimes, just because I want to see what are their signs so that they don't know. Like in the future, when it's something big, I'm like, okay, I know that you're lying to me, versus I'm going to call you out now, and then you're thinking just, okay, they figured it out because I did this. I watch for little subtle clues that they do in body language, and they all do something.
Absolutely.
Well, Aurora would just straight up lie to you. She'd just look you in your face and say, I didn't do that. I'm like, I literally just saw you. Apollo, my middle child, he can't hold his water for nothing. He'll
spill the tea, as my generation says. He'll spill the tea. Yeah. I know I can get information from him. In fact, he's shared some things I just assumed I had not known.
Yeah, yeah. And then
he's gonna tell it.
I just had to look at him, and I could tell because he puts his head down. He has that shame look. Him and Apollo both have the shame look, but Apollo's more as a teary shame look. His is just like shame.
And it is just, and you're seeing now how incredible it is that people with the same genes grew up with basically the same education environment can be so different. Like you and your brother. I love that you have a lot in common and you get along. You guys are night and day. True. It is just miraculous, but in a really, really good way. Okay, so Dad, you've gotten some job. You got your homework now. You got your assignment. You got an understanding of how to keep your daughter off the pole.
Don't be too lenient.
And be transparent with them. I mean, Tony just tell you, we have had some conversation that we can't even repeat right here, but I wanted them to know from the female side. I can't speak for men, but I can speak from the female side how it is and what's up. Our most recent conversation has been Colin in Black and White. I knew it was coming, and kudos. Wait, hold the time out. Did I see that Ava DuVernay actually liked one of your tweets about the show? Oh, man. Oh, man. I would lose it.
I said, what? And that's probably been the most famous person who's ever liked any of my tweets. So that was just a wow moment for me.
Absolutely. Ava DuVernay, Queen Sugar. She's collaborated with Oprah. She did what was the film about the guys that went to jail when they were so young? Wasn't that her? Central Park 5.
Central Park 5, yeah.
Was that her? I think so. And then she's got a new production out about Colin Kaepernick. And I am just really, really loving it. And what it brought to mind was you've got Colin, who's biracial and attending predominantly white schools, and just the microaggressions and the subtle things that he goes through. And I know that because where we live, you and your brother were in a similar environment. Has it brought any flashbacks for you just watching that series?
It really did. It brought back so many PTS things that I just put inside of me that I didn't even think about at the time. And even as a child, you don't really get the ramifications of what's going on. It doesn't really affect you that way because you just look at it like, I don't know. It didn't really hit me at that time, but something felt off about all the different situations. And so from elementary school through junior high to the early part of high school, you would feel these things. And sometimes it was very subtle, sometimes it was blatant. And every time a situation would happen in the show, I'd be like, I've experienced that before. I've experienced that. I've experienced walking in with a store with my white friends and seeing the people at the store looking at me while my white friends are stealing stuff. And I've experienced knowing that just conversations I've had with you and Dad, just like, hey, people are going to be looking at you differently. To where when I go into a place, I change the way I talk. I
Right.
changed the way I walk just to come off as non-threatening.
Right.
And even now
And
to
that
this
we,
day, being 6'2", 240, I know that people are afraid of me. I know that I'm what Shannon Sharp would say,
right.
shoot a brother
And
size. So
right.
I
And
yeah,
it's not that you're intimidating,
yeah,
just like I have a very assertive personality, but it's that they're intimidated and that
yes,
we have to bend and cower and make
right,
ourselves smaller to make other people feel okay.
yeah,
And it wears on you over time. And now, the when you were taking me to my appointment at the hospital, I thought
hmm
about that. What was that, 6 months or so ago? And you
yeah,
got pulled over for nothing. And I'm thinking about all the things we taught you about, keep your hands showing. And you were great. I'm trying to
yeah,
talk to you like, I got this, Mom, but my heart was pounding. And
right,
I work with law enforcement and all of that, but because of the divisiveness and the people getting shot and stuff right now, we shouldn't have to have these concerns.
exactly.
Do you think it's getting better? It's gotten better, even because now you have children in schools and your children are having to deal with
I,
things.
I think as my generation continues to get older and starts to get more positions of power,
Mhm.
and because my children's generation, there's so many more mixed kids, mixed people.
Right.
It's not just black and white. There's Asian and Hispanic and Middle Eastern. There's so many blends
Mhm.
now that when I go to their schools or I go to events, I mean, you saw at Apollo's birthday, it just like a rainbow of kids. We had white kids, black kids, Hispanic kids,
Right.
mixed different
But
mixtures of all kids. And so I
right.
do see it. I see it getting better,
Hmm.
but at the same time, as we talked about on our show, we always know that racism and prejudice are going to be there.
Right.
I I think it's gotten better since 44 was in office, but I don't know. It's hard to say. Just
Well, and at the same time, I didn't know how bad it was until he was in office because uh, people, you can legislate behavior, but you can't really legislate beliefs and core values. And some of the things that we all saw come out of people that we thought we knew,
mhm,
during that time when it was okay, when nothing was going to happen to you,
right.
was just really, really concerning. And, when I go for Grandparents' Day or the programs that go to the schools, I'm still not seeing as many educators of color. So I'm wondering, even though we see more children, what's happening in this really great series, Colin in Black and White, is coming from, you know, teachers, coaches, people in
Mhm.
authority. So you're in the schools all the time, picking up your kids, and you're with other parents. Are we getting more diversity among educators, or are they still
I
concentrated at certain schools?
I
Sorry.
think the diversity starts more in junior high and high school. I think
Mhm.
in elementary school and in Arlington, I think Arlington's pretty diverse versus a lot of different areas when it comes to school teacher. Just from my wife being a teacher and just kind of seeing who she works with, I know that at her school it's a very diverse school when it comes to teachers. But I think
Mhm.
if we're grouping males in that group, I think you start to see that more at junior high and high school level. I think one that's because of the coaching, and
Gotcha.
I think most men don't really want to teach younger kids. I think they prefer more that junior high school challenge, and I think they get
Gotcha.
paid
And
more
and
to do that. So
and they may be, pushed that way. There's
mhm,
sole
that
encouragement to
could be true.
do.
They could be pushed that way because even when I was in elementary school, I only had one male teacher.
Yeah, I don't think I had any, but that was 100 years ago when they were
Mhm.
still building log cabins. So anyway, recently celebrated a birthday. Happy birthday to me. Um, I alluded to in the intro that you played sports at a very high level, always just an incredibly gifted athlete and super intelligent straight A student, which thank you, Jesus, is a parent's dream. But to all of our surprise, you decided to give up football, playing running back at the collegiate level, after being a blue chip and heavily recruited and all of that, what went into that decision, and do you ever regret it?
What really went into that decision was really looking at debt. So debt and a lie, I would say. So when I first got to Baylor, because I just transferred there from Southeast Missouri.
Right. SEMO.
Yeah, SEMO. So they were talking to me because, I wasn't on scholarship when I went there. And so going through, I'm working my way up, I'm in a starting position. And so I had to sit out a year because of the transfer rules. And so which coach was it? My position coach was like, hey, you're doing your thing. We're going to put you on scholarship in the fall. So as it gets to that point, they say, hey, we're going to push that back to the spring. Hey, spring comes. Hey, we're going to push that back to next upcoming season. Well, Baylor's expensive. It's a private school, it's expensive. And so I looked at the situation where at that time, Baylor wasn't winning. So when I was going to play, I was going to lose a lot.
Right.
2, I'm looking at, okay, y'all keep lying to me and telling me you have me working hard, but you're not trying to essentially pay me for what I'm doing. And then the third part of it is I'm going to be in so much debt and have to pay for this sticking here. And so I'm like, if you're not going to pay me, you're not going to do it, and we're not going to win. Because if we're winning, that kind of cures it, because you're like, hey, we're winning, we're getting these perks. But at that time, Baylor was not winning. And so I looked at it and I said, you know what, this is not going to work. So I stepped away from it. And I will tell you that when you step away from something you love, and even to this day, nothing can fill the void when it comes to football. And the reason why I say that is because when you play basketball, you can play pickup in the rec leagues. You play tennis, you can go play on the tennis court. Hockey, they have hockey leagues. When it comes to football, unless you want to play semi-pro, which I don't recommend to anybody because that's just injuries and you're not guaranteed anything.
Okay.
You only have flag football. I can't hit you in flag football.
And there's something about the collisions and all of that. I understand. I got that. And I was, part of that process, but not, you've always been as independent as your daughter, Aurora, which is something I find very funny. And for my Baylor folks, you do know that I am a Baylor alum, as is Tony's father, my ex-husband. So that was an experience at Baylor. We do love us some Baylor Bears. I got to support my school. But anywhere you go, any program, particularly in athletics, I think there are going to be some things like what you just described. And I don't know that it helped you any that your father and I were, taking care of that tuition when they were looking at other kids and thinking, okay, he's good. He's, so-and-so's son. I wonder if that was a factor, but I was very proud of you in looking at all of that and making that decision after having, been at SEMO and gone to Baylor. I was very proud of you that you were able to look at all those factors and make a decision that was best for you. And I've tried to support you. And I ask you to share that just because there are a lot of people that go through situations like that. And like you said, giving up something that you love, I got pictures of you 3 years old sleeping in a football helmet. You loved it so much and were so dedicated. And now you're able to experience it in a different way as you coach your sons as well. And I know it's not the same, but at the same time, everything, I've always told you guys, everything you learn, it comes together for a better purpose. So kudos to you. And yeah, I really get that. I really, really get that. Your dad, I alluded to your father. He played ball at Baylor. He played for the Minnesota Vikings. He's still very well known and respected in Texas sports, in national sports. I don't think I've ever asked you this. What is that experience like, being the son of an NFL player?
There's different parts of it. there's when I was in basically all through elementary school, junior high, high school, I never wanted to tell anybody that he was an ex-athlete, because I never wanted anybody to think, oh, you're getting the starting position because you're dad. Oh,
Mhm.
I always wanted to be proven. I always wanted to prove myself to where when you did eventually find out, I'd already proven that I was the best person for that position. So I never really spoke about it. It was always my friends.
Oh
They always
yeah.
like, hey, did you know that so and so, or people who went to elementary school with me, and then
Hey,
everyone was like, what did she tell you?
I got introduced the same way, and I had a dental practice.
Yeah.
So trust me, I get it.
Yeah. So it was, to me, it was kind of like for lack of a better word, a trump card whenever I did use that.
Mhm.
Hey, my dad played. So if I was around Baylor alumni or people who really love the Minnesota Vikings,
Right.
and maybe I want to hook up on something, then I'd pull it out. But otherwise, I really wasn't talking about it.
Right.
And dad was not I guess to say this is, dad made it. So when you make it, you're not trying to live through your kids. So
Mhm.
dad was never trying to push us to play sports. If we wanted to play sports, cool.
Right.
If not, whatever. Looking
Mhm.
back, I do wish sometimes he would have pushed us harder, but I
Mhm.
understand why he didn't, because he didn't feel like he needed to live through us.
Right.
But had he pushed me hard, I'm curious to see what I would have been like if he had pushed me hard. And then I've had that conversation with him, like, man, why don't you push me at AC? He's like, man, I was good. If y'all wanted to play, y'all. And I mean, we love
Well,
playing outside.
right.
Yeah,
And
yeah, we
that's
love.
not his personality
Yeah, that's
either,
not
as
his
you know.
personality at all.
That's not his personality. Now, me, I was pushing them grades and that homework big time,
Yeah,
but that was because, I know the statistically,
right.
even if you make it, the risk of injury. Now we've got
Mhm.
CTE and all of that. So my thing was always, from the time people met you, you were just heads above everybody since
Yeah,
you were a little bitty kid. We had to show ID for you.
right.
And I was always like, he's an athlete scholar. He's not just an
Yeah, I remember you
athlete.
saying it all the time. He's
All
an
the
athlete
time. Because the
scholar,
first thing out of their mouth, you can play football, you gonna play football. I'm like,
and that's
there are
that's what I
so
always
many.
heard. And
Yes.
just, yes, high school, college, like instantly the moment people meet you, they say, "What sport do you play? Are you a football player or a basketball player?"
Right.
Dude, I'm more than that. And I would tell people a lot of times I'm in the band, and they would just sit there like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I play the trombone." I'm like, "What?" And then I'll just walk away
And
from
they're
it.
thinking, what a waste. No wonder we're
Yeah,
having a losing
exactly.
season.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is when you're big. Again, if you don't play sports, you get judged like, you got all this, you got the size I want, and you're not playing the sport. But if that was always comical to me to tell people I played in a band, or I just make up just different things that I did.
Understood. And it is funny. It's fun. It's fun to do that, especially when people, stereotype you and all of
Mhm.
that. So let's talk about the show a little bit. Ooh, they're funny. Ooh, they funny.
Ooh, they fun.
OOOHTHEYFUNNY. It is, I mean, it's not just a name. It is one of the funniest things. And it's not just because you guys are my sons. I don't, and your friends that I've known, I don't listen to men kind of show. I want to call them, what are they, like four guys in the,
Yeah,
what's her name?
Carly.
Carly, and the one girl who, oh my goodness, the mix is so great. Tell me how you guys came together and how you come up with those topics. It's very, very timely, interesting, but funny.
Yes. So how it all started, Steven, he had a show called The Cap Show. It was probably about
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago, and he wanted to do a segment on ex-athletes, ex-college athletes. So he brought me on the show, and I did a little interview with him. He interviewed me, and after the show, he said, "Hey, man, they really liked you. We had got a good response from the audience. You want to come back in 2 weeks?" I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah.
cool." And so I come back again, and we were at this little dingy spot in a rough area that one of his church members was renting out to him. And so
Right.
go there again. It's very sketchy. And do the interview. He's like, "Hey, man, you want to come on and talk?" Because it was just a sports show. "You want to come on and come on full time?"
Mhm.
Hey, cool. What are our numbers looking like? He's like, well, we got about 10 people who listen. I'm like, bro, you hype this up like I think we got 2,000, 3,000 listeners and stuff. And again, we're
Right.
at the studio in
Mhm.
the sketchy area, and I'm saying, hey, and me, the entrepreneur and the business person is saying,
That's
okay,
what I was thinking.
he told me that he was paying this guy. I'm like, hey, how much are you paying this guy? And he's like,
Mhm.
yeah, he's making me pay 150 a week. I said, 150 a week? I said, for 10 listeners? And he's like, yeah. I said, oh. And so I started doing my own research on
Right. That's $15 a listener.
And so I started doing my own research, and I was like, dude, this dude is killing you. I said, we can do our own show,
Mhm.
and it'll be $20 a month. And he's like, for real? I'm like, yes, he's killing you on the money and everything. And so we started doing our own show just
Mhm.
at the house. And one day, we had a different group at that time, but one day we just did a different segment, not about
Okay.
sports, but just a random segment that our guy coach brought up. It was called Mr. Blood. And he would just make up these random stories.
Right.
And that was the first time ever. At this time, we have about 50
Mhm.
listeners now. And that was about the first time ever where we got a response from girls saying, hey, I really like that topic. I was listening with my boyfriend or my dude, and that was funny. So we said, hey, let's do some more topics
Mhm.
and mixed in with the sports. And we started
Right.
getting such a following in females that I think our demographic was about 70% men, 30%
Yeah.
women,
Mhm.
where prior to that, it was 99% men and 1% women. So I had a conversation with Steve, and I said, hey, man, let's just make this a talk about any and everything type of show. Let's not do sports because sports are boring. At the end of the day, men love sports, but sports are boring. If you don't talk about it that day, it's over. And he said,
Right.
okay, let's try it. And
Smart.
so from there, we changed the name from the Cap Show to Ooh They Funny because the Cap
Mhm.
Show didn't make any sense to me. I said, the Cap, why we call it the Cap Show? He said, it's the Crew and Peep Show. I said, that's stupid. Let's go with something different. I said, that's
So you
stupid,
just
man.
came in and took over.
Yeah. I said, ain't nobody trying to see you, Otis. But before we were Ooh They Funny, we were the show. And we
Mhm.
were the show because we just talked about any and everything. And we eventually got back into a studio. We were
Right.
doing numbers. We had about 15, 18,000 listeners, depending on what time of the year it was.
Right. Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, if Empire was on, that number dropped down about 6,000. But
Yeah, I feel off if Empire was
yeah,
on.
and
I
when
mean, like,
Empire was on, we
yeah.
knew those numbers weren't going to be too good because we were at the same exact time.
Mhm.
And things happened at the station. Won't get into that. Not with us, but with the guy who ran it. So we had to shut that down. So we basically had to restart over again.
So you're
And
on Spreaker?
Breaker.
Okay,
So at
but
that time we were on TMI Radio.
right. Okay.
And so we start back over. Steven gets a little busy with school.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I still want to do this. So I reach out to my brother and we start doing it at his house, just me and him.
Who is comic relief.
Yes.
He is something else. Sometimes I just cringe. I'm riding in the car just blushing like, and let me warn you folks, it is a wonderful show, but it is not for if you're real sensitive.
There is an E on the show to let you know. I will say
Explicit.
it is a show for men that educates women.
Very much so.
That's how I describe the show. It's a show for men that educates women. And now, looking at our demographics, we now have more female listeners than we do male listeners. It actually switched last year. So we're about 60% women, 40% men.
Congratulations on just and not even the percentages, but just the diversity and the growth and everything you said there. I heard the degree just in the teamwork, data driven. You're looking at the finances. I mean, that's the basis for making good decisions, not just your feelings.
Right.
And you are definitely a researcher. I kick stuff to you all the time, poor thing. I don't know how you fit it in, but you help me out. I appreciate it. Last topic here. And I mean, you just really explained.
I got to answer one more question because I didn't answer your question on where do I come up with the topics.
Yes.
I literally it just randomly pops in my head, or situations happen, scenarios happen. I'll just be at work and I might have had a conversation with some gentleman in, I don't know, Alaska.
Right.
And something will pop in my head. Something will trigger something in the back of my brain. I'll just write it down. I'll see my kids do something. I'll write it down. I'll see a movie, write it down. So that's what I love about it. With it not being sports, just dealing with everything. Anything is a topic.
And that keeps it from being boring as well. That's why I like talking about different things every week, or even within a conversation. You know, I don't just talk about somebody's book or just their job, just like you guys don't just talk about sports or just talk about a movie. And so it's like, look, folks, if this is boring, you hang on in a few minutes. It's like Texas weather. We'll change. We'll change. Stay with me. But and I have to tell you folks, I literally, a scene in my latest book, Never Close Your Heart, is literally lifted with permission straight from their show, because I was listening to them one day and I was laughing so hard. And they're, you know how podcasts are, you can go back, you can binge on, ooh, they funny, and you should wherever you listen to podcasts. But this particular scene about skinny Rihanna and dating, and I'm not going to tell you, but listen to the show and pick up a copy of my book too while we're at it, because we're both entrepreneurs, Dr. Mo Anderson, on Amazon, wherever books are sold. Last question, and what I was trying to draw out here, because we were talking earlier today about your bio and everything, is that you are indeed so versatile and well-educated, and the fact that you've gone into podcasting with next to no knowledge about it, except that your homeboy was doing it. And now you've got a podcast that's like, you know, at the top of the charts in Albania. I think I saw
Albania and Thailand. Who would have thought?
Right. I'm just trying to hit the major metropolitan areas, and you guys truly are global. What would be your advice? Just basic advice, you know, audio, social media is getting really, really big now. I've been podcasting about 10 years, and you've been doing it about 10 years, about the same length of time that we've been doing it. What would be your advice to someone looking at it now who wants to get into it? Is this a good time, or is the market flooded, or what's a basic way to get started if it is a good time?
I think the first thing you need to do when you're getting into podcasting is find something that you like and that you enjoy talking about. Because if you do that and you consistently put out content, you're going to grow a fan base of people who like listening to what you do. If you try to listen to other podcasts, and I'll listen to other podcasts, and every once in a while I'll be inspired to have an idea. Right. But if you try to sound like another podcast and try to formulate and do everything exactly like them,
right,
you might not get the type of group that you want, because it's not, you're not being true to yourself. And so then you're going to feel pressure to have to do these certain topics that you might not be passionate about. Right. Every topic I do, I'm passionate about, even if it's a dud. When I write it down, I'm like, this is going to be a good topic. And it could be a situation where I throw it out there and they're like, yeah, that sucks. I'm like, okay, next topic then. Another thing I would say, and this is something that I got to do a better job of, is make sure you're putting out video content with your podcast, because people love seeing people. They love seeing reactions. Right. I mean, there's a reason why kids sit up and watch YouTube videos of kids playing video games whenever they have a video game over there.
And they're literally called reaction videos, yes, right?
Reaction videos. I mean, there's a reason why IG people and TikTok people are taking off, because they are putting out content where you can see their reactions, what they're doing. And I just recently put out a video. I went mini viral for about 2 hours. I put it out there, just a video of my kids leaving the car, and I basically captioned it, parents after they drop off their kids, and it goes from, all right, I think I was playing some 1970s music or something. I remember you saying you liked the song. I don't remember what that song was.
It was hilarious with the sunglasses. You went from conservative soccer dad
very conservative.
Right.
Some sunglasses on, got the hoodie on, 50 cents bumping. And I didn't think nothing of it. I was like, okay, well, this is just funny for me, and maybe I'll probably get 10, 15 likes. And my phone kept blowing. I thought somebody was calling me. I said, what is going on? In 2 hours, I think it's at 10,000 views now. And I think at that time I had about 8,000 views in about 2 hours. I said, bro, let me get back on this and start posting.
Yes.
So content, pump out your content. Don't get lazy. Even if you don't feel like doing it. There's some Wednesdays I don't feel like doing it. There's some Wednesdays where me and my brother are beefing. But if you listen to the show, you wouldn't know we're beefing. But we beef on the show all the time, just about just stupid stuff, and then we're cool the very next day. But we don't let that stop us from putting out content because we know that people are looking forward to it. And I know that because we get emails from people asking about advice. We have a segment called Am I an A-hole? Where people will I don't know how true some of these stories are, but some of them I'm like, you can't make that up.
Well, there's a lot of narcissistic people out there. There's a lot of people gaslighting people, but they're still the minority. So there's all these other people that are just wondering, am I okay? Because they've surrounded themselves with toxic people.
Right.
And so then you have to go outside of that to ask, people who you respect to get an unbiased opinion. Is this right? That was Dear Abby for 40, 50, 60 years. That's the whole principle of it. So that means that people are really respecting what you're doing and what you're saying. So I could talk to you all day. I love to talk your ear off. I appreciate you so much. Before we go, tell folks how they can listen to the show again and how they can connect with you on social media. Tony Anderson of Ooh They Funny.
So you can connect with me on my Instagram and on my Twitter. It's Mr. November 2K5. I got hacked, so I had to change those. On my TikTok and on it's my other one. I have another social handle, but if you search T-Bone State 2K5, that will pop up. When it comes to our show, the easiest way to do it, just go to Google, type in Ooh They Funny. That's 3 O's with an H, They Funny. Every platform will pop up. Anything that has to do with us will pop up. We are the only Ooh They Funny out there. If you just type in OOOH on any podcast platform, we will pop up because we are the only Ooh They Funny out there. So,
well, you're certainly the only Ooh They Funny for me, son. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. And I appreciate all our listeners. I want you to keep tuning in every week or so. And I particularly hope you enjoyed this episode because I've just had a conversation with, like I said, one of my favorite people in the world. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast and my YouTube channel, and visit my website at drmoanderson.com. That's moeanderson.com for more about my books and workshops, or to schedule me as a speaker at your next event. Until next time, renew, review, and renew. Thank you.